A great start by Griffin Canning, a 4-run rally in the 8th inning. The New York Mets made a statement with their series victory over the Cubs on Mother's Day.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. I'm covering the New York Mets on this show since the 2019 season. This is the only podcast that covers the Mets 7 days a week throughout the regular season. If you want to find any of my written work, you can do so over at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now, this series over the weekend was a really exciting one between two of the best teams in the National League. The Mets and the Cubs are both in first place in their respective divisions, so there's a lot of eyeballs on these games. You had nationally televised games, so it was going to be really interesting to see how the Mets made their way through this series and what the talking points would be after it. And I think what the Mets showed is, once again, they are a team to be reckoned with. They blow out the Cubs in game one. Game two, it was close. The Mets lose by a run. Easily could have won that game. And then game three, it's a great pitcher's duel, an awesome game to watch overall. But in the end, the Mets have the big rally that leads them to the series victory. And they made a statement to every other team in the National League, all the other contenders, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Phillies, which they already made a bigger statement to the Phillies when they swept them earlier this year, but still, they showed once again that they are a team to be reckoned with in this league. And speaking of the Phillies, they keep winning. Since the Mets beat the Phillies and swept them at Citi Field, they've won 5 series in a row. So the Mets have to keep winning to hold that lead in this division. And it was just a great performance, top to bottom. Outstanding starting pitching. Griffin Canning was excellent. The bullpen was good again. The defense was good. And the lineup got the big hits when they needed to. And also, we're seeing this team start to really get into the home run ball, which is a huge thing, because when the weather warms up a little bit, I mean, this is a team that can just flat out go on runs with their home run ball. And what I mean by runs is not just scoring runs in the game. I'm talking about is sustained weeks of success, winning series over series over series, because in 2 of the 3 games of that given series, they have 4 guys hit home runs. That's what this lineup has the potential to do. But also, this rotation is just ridiculous right now. Griffin Canning, I'm going to spend some more time on him in the next segment. What he did in this start was so impressive. Such a good Cubs lineup. He comes out firing, strikes out the side in the first inning. Matthew Boyd does the same thing in the bottom half of the frame. Those two guys both pitch great in this one. Canning retires the side in the order in the second inning. The Mets got him an early lead in the bottom of the second as Starling Marte got hit with a back foot slider. And then Luis Torrens hits a triple off the wall in left center field that Pete Crow Armstrong just barely missed catching. I think that they said the catch probability was 0, and he was a foot away from it. So pretty wild for PCA to nearly catch that ball. But Torrens put a good swing on it, ends up with a triple. The Mets having 1-0 lead, and that lead held pretty much all the way through, as the Cubs would finally get to Canning in the 6th inning. But before that, he just was dominant. He really was. And then he made his one mistake of the day, if you can call it one, where he gave up a home run to Pete Crow Armstrong. But if you look back at the replay of that homer and you pay attention to where, I believe it was still Luis Torrens catching at that point, because Torrens ended up getting hit in a place that most guys are terrified of getting hit and got removed from the game. Francisco Alvarez came in and played the last couple innings. I think Torrens was still in there at that point, and he holds the target up and in on PCA, and where you see the target from Torrens is exactly where Canning puts the baseball. So if anything, you say it's a mistake on Torrens' part for calling that pitch. Regardless, you credit PCA for turning on one and hitting it into the upper tank in right field. It was very, very well hit baseball, and that tied the game. But I mean, that was it for Canning. That's all that he gave up. He was unbelievable. Allowed just 2 hits, 1 walk. That home run was the 1 run that he allowed over 6 innings, struck out 5. Again, I want to talk about his season so far a little bit more in the next segment. But getting back to this game, Matthew Boyd nearly matches him on the other side because he was 1 out away from getting through 6, having allowed only that 1 run on the Luis Torrens triple. But after Boyd had struck out Juan Soto and Pete Alonso in the 6th inning, Mark Vientos turns on a first pitch fastball that probably bled inside a little bit more than Boyd would have liked. And Vientos just puts a great swing on it, hits it out to left field to give the Mets a short-lived lead because Reed Garrett comes on in the 7th inning and issues a leadoff walk, gets a ground out, then gives up a double to Nico Horner that scores a run. So once again, back and forth game. Things are knotted up at 2 runs apiece. Garrett gets through the rest of that 7th inning. The Mets go down in order in the bottom of the 7th. Then the 8th inning, Ryan Stanek comes on, and he was lights out in this one. He looked dominant, struck out 2 in a 1-2-3 frame. And the bottom of that 8th inning, the Mets just had a magical rally. It starts with the captain, Francisco Lindor. Just a great at-bat. Works the count to 3-1. You see them try to do a little get me over sweeper to try to steal a strike and stay in the at bat because behind Lindor, you have Soto, you have Alonso. You don't want to walk him to lead off an inning in a tied game. And, they're trying to go backdoor on Lindor. Instead, it ends up bleeding over to the heart of the plate, and Lindor just crushes it. Huge home run for him. Great celebration. Awesome to see him continue to come up clutch time after time after time. It's just obvious at this point. He loves playing in New York. He loves Citi Field. It's home to him, and he rises to the occasion in all these big moments. So it's just a massive home run by Lindor. And once they take that lead, the lineup just continues and builds off of it as Pete Alonso doubles. Mark Vientos gets a base hit to drive him in. PCA couldn't come up with the base hit. Otherwise, there would have been a play at the plate. Instead, he makes a mistake, bobbles it, allows Pete Alonso to score standing up. And then Brandon Nimmo follows up Vientos' hit with a home run of his own, a 2-run shot that gives the Mets a commanding 6-2 lead. Edwin Diaz still goes out there for the 9th inning, has a 1-2-3 frame, and the Mets come home winners yet again. Just an awesome series, 2 really good teams, really well-fought games. And the Mets won 2 of them. So an outstanding job for them to find their way to a series victory. Just another testament to what this ball club can do against a good baseball team. And they have some good teams coming up that they're going to have to face soon. Luckily, before they get to the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers, they get a series against the Pirates, which we'll talk about in the final segment today. Before we talk about Mets versus Pirates, I have to spend more time on Griffin Canning. This guy has been ridiculous this year, and I want to spotlight what he's done and what it means to this rotation moving forward. We'll talk about it all in just a minute. First, though, quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, to track your spending, even plan long-term goals, and manage your money with your partner is smoother than ever because you can track your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get closer to our goal of 14,000 subscribers. If you're liking the content, throw a like on this video and leave a comment. Did you believe that Griffin Canning was going to do this to start the season? And if any of you say yes, I know you're lying because nobody expected Griffin Canning to pitch this well. You could have thought that Canning was a good signing. You could have said, you know what? I trust this front office. I trust their ability to find diamonds in the rough. I don't care that he gave up more runs than any other pitcher in the American League last year. This is a quality starting pitcher who was in a bad organization with the Angels, and now he's going to come to the Mets. They're going to sprinkle some magic dust on him, and he's going to be top 10 in ERA in the National League. No one expected this. You could have thought that he was going to be good. That he was going to be a quality back-end starting pitcher. He's been great, and I was wrong on him, absolutely. I did not think he was going to be anywhere near this good. I remember saying the only reason why I don't hate this signing is because it's this Mets front office. That was pretty much word for word my take when they signed him, where I didn't understand why they were getting Griffin Canning when they had all this pitching depth already. And the one thing I said was, this front office could make me look stupid. And so far they have. Canning, special day for him as well. I should have pointed this out earlier, but both him and his mom share a birthday, and that birthday was yesterday on Mother's Day. So he has a great start for himself on his 29th birthday and his mom on Mother's Day, and just twirled a gem is the only way to describe it. He's faced some good lineups this year. The A's have a good lineup. They scored 4 runs against them. The Phillies obviously have a good lineup. He held them to 1 run, but did allow 7 hits. Didn't make it past the 5th inning. The Diamondbacks have a good lineup. He only allowed 1 run, but did give up 6 hits and a walk, but didn't record an out in the 6th inning. So if there was a knock on Canning this year, what you could say is it hasn't gone deep into games. Only had finished the 6th inning once all year going to the start on Sunday, but he does finish 6 innings today. And you look at the results, it's absurd. 8 starts, 2.36 ERA. It's wild. The Mets lost both Clay Holmes and Griffin Canning's first starts of the season in their opening series against the Astros. Since then, they're 14-0 when those two guys toe the rubber. 14-0 since that opening series. If Clay Holmes or Griffin Canning is on the mound, the Mets are winning. That's what their season has been so far. And that's crazy. There was teams that spent $20 million on starting pitching. How about this one? The Mets could have brought back Luis Severino for 3 years, $67 million. Instead, they signed Clay Holmes to 3 for $38. They signed Canning to 1 for $4.25 million. And those two guys are both pitching to a sub-3 ERA right now. It's wild. It's wild what they've done. Clay Holmes right now is 8th in ERA. Griffin Canning is 5th among qualified starters in the National League. He's 5th in ERA. And the guys ahead of him, it's like Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Freddie Peralta, some of the better pitchers in the National League. And there's Canning hanging out with those Giants because he is just outstanding this season. And you look at the difference between this year and last year, it's not drastic. It's not the Mets creating a new pitch for him and all of a sudden, oh, now he's throwing a sinker that he never had before. It's the same arsenal. It's all about sequencing, and it's about throwing his slider more. His slider being his best pitch, either a slider or his changeup. Throw that pitch more. That was the only big tweak, because last year he threw his slider, I don't have the exact percentage, but it was about 24, 25% of the time, and this year it's like over 35% of the time. So throwing the slider more, pitching backwards a little bit more, relying on that changeup, but really it's just sequencing. The Mets have him sequencing his pitches better, and he is working with so many more resources at his disposal than he ever had with the Angels, who just don't pour their money into the analytics, the player development in the same way that the Mets have. They do pour it into payroll in some respects, but it's not a well-run franchise. The change of scenery has been outstanding. It's been so key for Canning to discover the best version of himself. Now, I don't know how long he can sustain this, but what Griffin Canning does is he never backs down. He's always attacking the zone. He's not walking the world. And he's just a good, complete pitcher, and it's hard to describe what that is, but it's holding runners on. It's filling your position well. He had a great play in this game where there was a chopper hit to his left. Could have been trouble, but he made an outstanding play coming off the mound, ranging to his left and fielding the ball, and then it's easy from that point. He's just a really good game manager, but that's almost a knock on him. It's saying that his stuff's not good. His stuff is good. Last year, he had problems putting guys away. And now this year, he hasn't had those issues. If you look back at what he did 2 years ago, his strikeout rate was good. But last year, for whatever reason, whether it was just, again, a lack of resources around him for helping him find the best version of himself and really giving him the knowledge that he needed on how to tweak his arsenal and figure things out to get the swing and miss. Now he's gotten the swing and miss, and it's just unlocked a stunning revelation for this rotation. That's the only way that I can describe it. Again, you could have told me that the experiment was going to work and that he was going to be a good fifth starter for the Mets. What no one, and I'm sure not even anyone in that front office could have expected, is that he would be 8 starts into the season pitching to a sub-2.5 ERA. That's just wild. Wild. And for those of you who have been long-time listeners of the show, you know about the Jersey bet. The Jersey bet began in 2021, where I had a rant on this show about Jonathan VR and how he was a guy that only gets stats late in games when games don't matter, and how he's only a guy that puts up numbers on bad teams, which I think actually in retrospect was a good take, but I just hated the signing from day one. And I think I said he'd have a sub 700 OPS, and if he didn't, I'll go get a Jonathan VR jersey. Well, he had like a close to 750 OPS. He was a really good player for that 2021 Mets team, and I had to eat crow and buy that jersey. Next year, it was James McCann. James McCann was not good. I did not have to buy a jersey. The next year, I didn't like the Tommy Pham signing. Well, remember how Tommy Pham did in 2023. Pretty good. I had to get a Tommy Pham jersey. Last year, it was Joey Wendell, and Joey Wendell was off the team in May, so didn't have to get that jersey. It seems to be an odd year trend for me. So when I picked Griffin Canning as this year's jersey bet, because there was just not a lot of moves this front office made that I didn't like. I pretty much liked every move they made outside of this one, with the caveat that I thought that this front office would potentially make me eat crow. And here I am, midway through May, not even quite there yet, saying that I was dead wrong. And I might as well just go ahead and buy that Canning jersey now, because he's already proved me wrong. He has been ridiculously good. And I think the best part about this signing, honestly, is the fact that the Braves cut him. I mean, the Braves are supposed to be the smartest team in baseball, right? Alex Anthopoulos always gets the credit for being, the best executive in the game. And man, they've locked up their homegrown talent, and they found Chris Sale last year, and somehow got him for Vaughn Grisham and got the Red Sox to kick in money, and he ended up winning a Cy Young. And they pulled Ronaldo Lopez from thin air, and man, they just always figure things out, right? They are the model organization when it comes to building out a roster. Well, they trade Jorge Soler to the Angels, and they get Griffin Canning in the deal, but they didn't want to pay him $5 million. So they non-tendered him. Well, guess how Bryce Elder and Grant Holmes are doing in the back end of their rotation? Nowhere near as good as Griffin Canning. Bryce Elder's got a 4.97 ERA, and Holmes is a little over a 4.5. And here's Griffin Canning with the 2.36 ERA. It's wild. Absolutely wild. Would he have done this with the Braves? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know if they can develop pitching the way the Mets can at this point. I don't know if they can, reclaim pitching the way the Mets can. But here he is. And it's pretty awesome that he could have been a Brave, and they made the mistake to non-tender him. It's a guy that is a MLB starting pitcher, and I know that's just an obvious statement, but what I mean by that is he's a guy that can take the ball every fifth day. If you had afforded him that opportunity, the Mets are running with the 6-man rotation, so they haven't had to, but he did that last year, took the ball every fifth day, and he's going to give your team a chance. And not a lot of guys can say that, where they can be kind of feast or famine. For Canning, he's going to go out, he's going to compete. He's going to field his position well. He's going to hold the runners. He's going to do all the little things. And you hope he keeps hitters off balance and gets you through 5 or 6 innings. It's been a crazy, crazy start to the season for Griffin Canning. So wanted to give him his flowers here after 8 awesome starts and his best of the season, keeping the Cubs off balance and allowing the Mets to ultimately win that game in the late innings. Now they're going to have the Pirates coming into town, and we're going to get to see Paul Skenes. I want to talk about this upcoming series in just a minute. First, though, another quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios, one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better fuel unsaturated fats to help you feel fuller, longer. I love the no shells variety of Wonderful Pistachios because it's the perfect grab and go snack. And smoky barbecue is my favorite flavor. I like the honey roasted. I like the sea salt and pepper. Really, I've liked every flavor of Wonderful Pistachios that I've tried, but these are my go-to, whether I'm snacking at my desk, going on a road trip. I always have my Wonderful Pistachios on hand just in case I get a little bit hungry. And also, if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite that are available to you as well. Get snacking and cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. If you're an everydayer that's always tuning into the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me. Anytime news breaks from the match, you can ask me questions anytime. Take part in our Locked On Mets sign photo giveaways, and you get the lineup graphics sent to your phone each day so you know who's in the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Now, the Pirates are coming into town, and there's only 2 things standing in the Mets' way of winning this series, if not sweeping this series. The first one is the guy that's towing the rubber tonight. That's Paul Skenes. We'll talk about him in a second. The other reason why the Mets might not win this series is because of new manager syndrome. There is a phenomenon in Major League Baseball. You have a terrible team that gets off to an awful start. They fire their manager to hold somebody accountable for the dismal beginning to the year. And then that new manager comes in, and for at least the first week or two, the team finds new life. I don't know if it's just playing in front of somebody new. Everyone's on their best behavior, what it is, but it is a common theme in baseball. Whenever you fire your manager, expect an uptick in performance. So sure enough, the Pirates started the year 12-26. They couldn't buy a series win. They fired Derek Shelton. Don Kelly comes in. They win their first series under Don Kelly. And they beat the Braves, so that was a pretty good thing that happened over the weekend. All those games were close. They're all one-run games. Pirates took 2 of them, obviously. The Braves took 1. Braves only scored 8 runs in the series. The Pirates scored 9. So very close series, but it also illustrates how bad this team is offensively, that none of these games did they really score a bunch of runs. It really is, if not the worst offense in baseball, right there with the White Sox. The White Sox have the worst OPS in baseball as a team. Pirates are second worst. White Sox have scored 12 more runs, though, than the Pirates. No one has scored less than them this year. The Royals have hit 1 less home run, but they're also second worst in home runs hit. You compare that to the Mets over the last 15 days, the Mets have the highest OPS in baseball outside of the Dodgers, and only the Yankees have hit more home runs. The Mets are 4th in runs scored. You look at the season now, the Mets are in the top 10 in runs scored and homers. I believe they rank 7th in both of those categories, and they have the 3rd best OPS in baseball behind only the Dodgers and the Yankees. So when we're comparing these 2 teams' lineups, there is no comparison. The Mets are significantly better. When you look at the pitching, again, the Mets have been a lot better this year. They have the best staff in baseball by ERA. The Pirates, when it comes to their rotation, they're sitting at a 4.08. When it comes to their bullpen, they're sitting at a 4.24. Both of those ERAs rank 20th in Major League Baseball. Now, the Pirates won that series over the weekend against the Braves in Pittsburgh. This year, they are 9-13 at home. They're 5-14 on the road. The Mets are 500 on the road, and they're 15-4 at home in this series, of course, again, played at Citi Field. So, again, everything is skewing Mets for why they should win this series. But, and really actually why they should sweep this series, the one thing standing in their way tonight is Paul Skenes. Although the Pirates are only 3-5 when Skenes is on the mound this year, he's been good. A 2.77 ERA across his first 8 starts. Hasn't been outstanding, but has been really solid. And you know he's going to be a tough matchup for the Mets. Last year, Skenes did beat the Mets. The Pirates won that game by a score of 14-2. The Mets actually had an early lead in the game. Jeff McNeil homered off of Paul Skenes. Pete Alonso doubled in the next inning, would eventually score on a fielder's choice off the bat of Candelita. Jose Iglesias. So that's how the Mets got their 2 runs, but then it was just a disaster. Luis Severino gave up 7. The bullpen gave up 7 as well, and the Mets just got blown out. Looking at the matchup, I imagine the Mets will try to, stack some lefties in there. Jeff McNeil homered off of him, so I'm sure McNeil will be back out there. My guess is at second base with Acuna getting a day on the bench. He played all 3 games, or started all 3 games in the Cubs series, so I think he's probably due for a day. I would think Beatty starts at third base. Vientos maybe is the DH. I think that Marte would get the day off, but you'll see what the Mets decide to do there. Theoretically, they could always, if they wanted to, play Acuna at second, play McNeil in center to start the game. It's a pretty bad offense. I think you can maybe justify having McNeil in center field because there might not be a lot of balls that are hit out to the outfield anyway. It's just not a good lineup, but we'll see what the Mets choose to do. It's going to be tough going up against Skenes. The best thing you can do is work his pitch count, try to get into that Pirates bullpen. And I think with David Peterson on the other side of it, going up against this Pirates lineup, he's got a chance to match Skenes just because of the discrepancy in lineups. And if you can turn it into a bullpen game late, I feel good about the Mets' chances to win a close one at home against a Pirates team that just has not been very good this year. And you look at their lineup, the one guy that overall has been off to a pretty good start is O'Neal Cruz. He's got 8 home runs and an OPS over 800. But against lefties, he's hitting, or not, I don't have his OPS here. His OPS is 524. I think he was hitting in the low 100s against lefties. So I imagine he'll still be in there as an everyday player, but a guy that David Peterson can certainly exploit. The guys he's got to worry about is Joey Bart, who on the season's hitting 291 with a 790 OPS. He's been very good, but a lot of that is due to how he has crushed lefties, hitting 462 against left-handed pitching this year. Andrew McCutchen, again, has an OPS over 800 against lefties. So those are a couple guys that Peterson has to be wary of, but he's got plenty of opportunities in this lineup to maybe pitch carefully around a Joey Bart or Andrew McCutchen, knowing that he has another hitter that he can attack and get strikeouts or get the double play ball when he needs it. So I think this is a very good matchup for Peterson. Skenes is going to be tough every single time that you face him. So no matter what the Mets put out there, it's going to be a grind to get a win in game 1. But if they do, the Mets have advantages in the next 2 games, and I think pretty convincing ones. You got Kodai Senga going up against Mitch Keller in game 2. Senga's been unbelievable this year. Mitch Keller's got an ERA over 4. You got Bailey Falter going up against Clay Holmes in the final game of this series. Falter also has an ERA over 4. So the Mets have everything in their favor, really, to at least win this series. They might lose the first game with Skenes on the mound, but if they can beat them, there's almost no excuse not to sweep the Pirates, considering how bad they've been this year and how good the Mets have been at home. And you want to stack some wins because, as I alluded to, things are going to pick up a little bit more right after this, where you just beat the Cubs in a hard-fought series. You're going to play the Pirates, but then you go to the other borough and you face off against the Yankees over the weekend. That's going to be a very, very heavily watched series. All eyes are going to be on that Subway Series with Juan Soto making his return to Yankee Stadium. It's going to be a circus. So stack some wins now because who knows what that series is going to bring. And then after that, you got to go to Fenway and square off against a Red Sox team that can be dangerous. And then you come home and you face the Dodgers. So the next 9 games are going to be a real test for the New York Mets. Luckily, after that, they can get fat again on the White Sox and the Rockies. They could really beat up on those teams. Then they go to LA and face the Dodgers for 4. So schedule ramps up, but then they go to Coors and we'll have a chance again to maybe pad their record a little bit again. But this is going to be an awesome game to watch. As much as it'll probably be frustrating if Paul Skenes is just rolling, it's always cool to watch pitchers like this that are just remarkable to see work. So even though it's going to be frustrating if it happens against the Mets where he just lights out, it's also going to be cool to just see this guy pitch. So I'm excited about that. We'll see if David Peterson can hold his own and match him and turn this into a game where the bullpens can decide it. I think the Mets have a huge advantage there. And they got the advantage the rest of the series when it comes to the pitching matchup. So we'll see if the Mets can do what they're supposed to against the Pirates this week to finish off this homestand strong. I'll be back for another episode tomorrow where I'll break down whatever happens in this game. And we'll always be keeping our eye towards the minor leagues. Over the weekend, I did a segment where I broke down 5 Mets prospects whose stock is on the rise. I do think I'm going to break up that segment. So if you are a subscriber on YouTube, you might see just that segment hit your feed later on today. So that's a little extra content for you if you might have missed that isolated segment. But I do plan to do 5 prospects with their stock down this year as well, as sort of a counter to the stock up episode or stock up segment. So stay tuned for that. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen, your first watch every day. Now, for your second watch, head over to YouTube and check out Locked On MLB Game Night. This is the show that takes you around all of Major League Baseball and breaks down the latest games with recaps and analysis from our local experts on each team. You'll find Locked On MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel and the Locked On MLB podcast feed.